protected mailing list. So this represents the conversations that we were having with the vendors. And we had some good technical discussion early on, but as you can see, that there's the middle peak, and then it kind of starts to drop off and taper off, and most of those were flame wars. And so, you know, the private activity, it's hard for us to say that, you know, there was real meaningful progress being made there. But as you see, you know, on that November 4th where it was disclosed, there was kind of this big, oh crap, you know, discussion happening on the private list simultaneously with the public TLS list, which is the line in blue. And as you can see, the volume on the public list got amazingly high, you know, 70 messages per day, and it's normally, you know, 4 or 5 at best. So there was, and then the public list kind of had to go through this whole cycle of understanding the problem as well, and we had a solution right there to present to people, which was even more of a shock because that's absolutely not the way the IETF is set up to work. Is, you know, they want to deliberate and agree on things in the open. So everybody on the IETF essentially wanted to start the whole process at the beginning at this point, and maybe that's what needed to happen.
Just real quickly, so we are in a world where vendors have, you know, many vendors have disabled renegotiation, which was the kind of the Armageddon scenario, in the sense that the protocol would just
released a patch
just go away, right?
To just disable renegotiation. You know, Apple has disabled renegotiation and broke Tor. Thanks, John. And this was our nightmare scenario. It's, right now, as we speak, things are teetering on whether or not renegotiation is going to be a useful aspect of the TLS protocol going forward, or is it going to be shot down at every halfway inspecting firewall that it crosses. And as I think we tried to show, there's a small minority that is very critically dependent on this being a viable feature of the protocol. At Foam Factor, we set up a web page to track the status of different vendors and their patches.
One commercial vendor has
not just
shipped
commercial.
Code. Actually, it's right.
Vendors,
one vendor has
including
shipped code.
Commercial and open source.
Anybody happen to know?
Cisco.
Opera for the win.
And,
way to go, guys. This is Opera.
Point out the webpage there.
10.50 pre-alpha that implements the upcoming RFC, and it is connected to the most secure website on the internet right now, which is mikestoolbox.org. Mike has his personal implementation of TLS, which is the first server side to implement this extension. And so this connection here between these two pieces of software is the most secure and fully functional SSL TLS connection on the web right now.
Ever. Exactly.
Ever.
Turns out that not everybody has actually patched to turn off renegotiation.
All you guys who typed in a credit card number, you're owned.
All right.
Shmoocon. Yeah.
Did Opera fix it with the verify data extension, or did they just disable?
They fixed it with the correct extension that makes renegotiation safe again. Lots of vendors have just disabled it outright.
All right, this is where we talk about the experience a little bit, and it was kind of crazy. First things first, you know, this clearly security bugs are a no-win situation, but what struck me, even though I was advised by some pretty close friends that have done this before, it's a really hard process. I mean, just everybody hated us for a period of time in there, and I mean, it's like you can't possibly satisfy anybody. And we spent a lot of time thinking about how to do this. I mean, we spent hours. My poor dog has been walked around the block God knows how many times while Marsh and I yammered about this thing.
And okay, not only is it traumatic for vendors and it's a no-win situation, it's anyone who has the appearance of trying to win from this security vulnerability is really, they're Dan Kaminsky.
All right, so there are actually other problems with SSL. Who knew, right? So of course we knew this going in, but for whatever reason, being protocol guys, at least I thought for sure that a fundamental break in a fundamental data security protocol would be really important stuff. And when we got to the Google meeting, Eric Rescorla goes, "Isn't this like the 4th break in SSL this year?" I mean, think about SSL strip. Think about CA vendors that do this. that have notice that username and password link there on an HTTP page. So, you know, anybody with a sniffer now has your...
Yeah, all your browsers are trusting these guys, by the way.
We found out that we couldn't do a good job. Was that a question?
Well, no, it's the form point. It's not what I downloaded, it's what I uploaded.
Yeah, well, the form came down in clear text, so a man in the middle could sub it instantly. You can't see where you're at.
How do you know where it's going?
Right, you can't possibly know where it's going unless you really know what you're doing.
Yep.
So we didn't have data that we wanted to have, that we needed to have going in, so the solution we came up with was suboptimal. Maybe if we had had decent data going in, we could have saved a month or a month and a half in the IETF without having to goof around with the SSL3 thing that, frankly, caught us completely by surprise. We got this question a couple times. Is the IETF security process broken? You know, oh my God, how did this happen? Well, it might be broken, I don't know. But this is not the IETF's bug. At least it wasn't originally. SSL was written by Netscape, or was standardized by Netscape, you know, it was ownerless for several years. The IETF, by the way, the IETF did, it was found in the context of an IETF mailing list before it was disclosed by anybody else.
Yeah,
so
14 years later.
14 years later. I do think the IETF could have done a better job at adopting this legacy protocol. But, all right, one last lesson for our slow disclosure friends, or no disclosure friends.
Or responsible disclosure friends. There was, back to this mailing, this 18.5-hour exploit here. Looking at this, again, it struck me this wording might be a little curious. It might not work with up-to-date open SSL. What could that mean? And so I emailed Pavel and struck up a friendly conversation with me. He was happy to share things, and he had been working on it before, and I think the final line tells it all. His exploit was finished on January 2007.
3 years ago.
3 years ago. So take that, all the people who said that we would be irresponsible in accelerating the process faster than they were comfortable with. And we're going to leave it with an open question, which, you know, maybe it's going to take time to tell, but you know, did we achieve our goal of minimizing the exposure over time for this bug, or would, I mean, because I can't honestly say that we know that it would not have gotten all the systems patched faster had we not just taken Martin Rex's approach and dropped it as a 0-day on a public list.
And that is all. Thanks very much.
We'll hang out for any questions.
Yeah, I don't know if Bruce, if anybody has questions, if we have time. Otherwise, we'll hang out afterwards for questions as well.
You, sir, in the black.
Actually, how about we do this? How about we do this? We'll have them. You can come up and ask questions in a minute, because I know a lot of people, their stomachs are eating themselves, so it might be the easiest way to do it. What? Parking passes. What about them? Parking passes are at the registration desks. So on Sunday, when you feel like leaving and it's safe to leave and you can get your car out of hock, you can get your car out of hock for cheaper. You can get them today if you want. But anyway, so every year, you know, you go to a conference, the keynote comes up, you always give them something, like it's like a piece of paper, and they're like, oh, hey, that's nice, I'll put that on the desk and never forget about it, because it's this little thing, and I remember it. So what we started doing last year, and we're going to continue on, is you can't possibly hide this in a desk drawer. And last year we were remiss, we gave out the animal without tagging it, so now we've tagged them. These are actually livestock tags, which it turns out are really hard to put on without the right tool. So we nearly broke our fingers a few times trying to figure out a way to do this with the tools I had in my garage. But we eventually got 2010 Keynote written on this thing. So here you guys go. There's your moose heads. Hang them with pride. So thanks very much. I appreciate you guys coming on. It was fantastic. If you have questions, come on up. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow morning. There will be administrative at like 9:45, and we'll be starting at 10 o'clock sharp. So thanks for coming.
That's hilarious.
I didn't catch everything, but that looked really good, and all the feedback I saw online and Twitter and everything was